What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the channel. 1 month vacation, I know, a little bit too long for you guys, but we're back at it again. We've been playing through. The brothers are here. We got Sir Chubbs in the house today.
That's
We got
right.
him with us. So, what we're going to be breaking down for you today at the Brothers Gaming Network today is Season 2 Full Meta Breakdown. So, we've been through it. We've been getting our armies crushed. Yeah, you better believe we've been battering, ramming our heads against all these Season 2 teams.
Just
What,
meatheading against these teams.
yeah, what do we make out of it? Okay, so I want to go ahead and break it down. What does PvP have? Right? What has PvP been battling with? We'll talk about what Sir Chubbs has. We'll break down what we've been going into these fights with as well. And we'll break down the Season 2 teams that we think are in the current meta and how they're being built. And you can kind of build these teams in different variations, yes. But these are the primary people that you need to have in order to quit being zeroed out, right? Especially whenever you're being countered, or whenever you're countering someone, you're still getting destroyed. Even if you have spearmen against cav, even if you have archery against spearmen, and so on and so forth. So let's get into it. PvP, who do you have? Number one team that I have been running. Number one team, the Darius, Cyrus, and Xerxes. Um, it's been 50-50. I gotta say, it was probably S plus tier. It was probably the God tier team in season 1. Absolutely. Come season 2, it is not. I am hard stuck in, and I've been running this team fully in the arena. I'm sitting around 60, and I've been busting these 20s, skipping through these matchmakings every time that they're refreshed, just about. So, just in case you're wondering, PvP, where you at in the arena? I've been spamming Xerxes, Darius, and Cyrus. I run Darius as chief, primarily because I have Cyrus built as healing. So, that's the reason why I have it there, just in case. I have Cyrus built with Fiery Trial, Justice, and Vulnerability. And I build him with Concentrated Mind. So I have Mind built as a full support. I think that with the way that his main ability works and the traits work, that's the best way to do it. Quickly talking, the Kangas team, I've just pulled this leveling. I have no PvP results with this personally yet, but we'll currently talk about it whenever we go into the current meta discussions. But that's a pretty busted team by itself. My William and Charlemagne teams are currently being worked on. I hate to say it, William's been extremely hit or miss. Same thing with Edward. I have changed my teams around so much between these two. And to give you a reference, what I started with was the basic. I looked at the recommended. Edward, Charles, Charlemagne. Did not work at all. Edward with Swift Onslaught is not the ideal setup. Sure, the ability looks good on paper. It is not matching up. It really is not. I ran that team from the start. I was getting wiped at every corner I looked. Even whenever I was facing Elephant Warriors with a full tactical damage team, getting wiped on the spot. It wasn't even worth it. I had to start breaking down that team. This is my newest venture, is Charlemagne Charles Richard. I don't have Caesar, unfortunately. Might see him pull him by luck. We'll see. The Zhang team. This right here is another 50-50. I don't have Su Wu yet, as they would say. We'll see some polls later. But Yang, Ba Kui, and Wang Jin, I think this is about as best a setup as you can get besides having Su Wu involved. And very basic setup, Zhang full support, Wang Jin. But I think those are the three teams that are pretty much full meta right now. I do think Zhang being involved, Bakui and Wang Jin, that is about as full meta as you can get without having Su Wu involved. The Darius team is set up. I think that's my number one team. I've been running it. And then Kangas, whenever I get him up, he'll definitely be involved as well. So Chubbs, what have you been doing? What have you been goofing off with?
So, I lucked out and did manage to get Caesar. So, Caesar, I really lucked out on this pull. I was super psyched when I pulled him. But of all the people that we'll go into a list here shortly, but when we talk about people that are in the meta, if you have Caesar, you're running Caesar. He's really top of the line, and we'll get into troop skills too that work particularly good on him. But Caesar's definitely one of the best. I've been running Caesar, and I also drew Richard as well. Now the thing is, I'm trying to split them up. I'm not trying to put them on the same team so that I can have more viable teams. So right now, um, going to the arena really quick, I'm running Caesar, Bellaris, and Scipio. So on those teams, I'm running Bellaris as my primary damage source. So I'm slot 50. I'm sorry, 43. If you want to look at my setup. But so Scipio is not built the best right now. He's running Noble Knights. I've had the support kind of split up between Caesar and Scipio right now, just because I don't have the right moves for Scipio. I'm really wanting courage. I don't have courage. I don't have bloody battle and well deserved credit. That's really what I would prefer to have is bloody battle and well deserved credit on Scipio. Polaris, I wouldn't change much. I would maybe the reason why I put Relentless Chase and Tiger's War was to get some sort of synergy out of that. It's working a little bit, but it's not working as well as I had hoped. And then Caesar, of course, I'm running Exploit Overindulgence. I'm looking into switching Noble Knights into taking Exploit Indulgence out, switching Noble Knights over into Caesar. So that's kind of that setup right there, and then putting another damage ability on Scipio. It's just I'm lacking some of the abilities to really optimize this team as best as I could. So my other team that I'm running is going to be Charles, Richard, and Edward. So I'm a little bit of a fan of Edward. I like how his ability works, but I'm just not seeing the results as well as I would like on the matches that he absolutely pops off, he's hitting. I have mockery and I have invulnerable on him. When he pops off, he's hitting invulnerable and mockery like 4 to 5 times over the span of a match. That's just crazy because it works so well with his main ability. But again, he's just not performing as well as I had hoped. Kind of going off of what IPVP said. But I've got Richard on that team. Richard is running lose lose, which is like his bread and butter, and rapid victories. Again, I'm missing some of the abilities to kind of optimize this team, and then I'm running Charles full damage with fast gallop and fearful enemy. So fast gallop, I think, is just a phenomenal ability. I'm missing Charlemagne. If I had Charlemagne, I would take Richard out of this team, replace him with Charlemagne, run Charlemagne Charles, and then Edward, and then optimize Charlemagne for all my damage, and then switch Richard to my Caesar team, take out Bellares, put Richard in his place, and then run that. Caesar, Richard, Scipio is really strong right now. They synergize really well. Those are my two main teams. Unfortunately, I'm missing a lot of pieces right now. I don't have all the pieces to really run a Valkyrie team. I don't have all the pieces to run a Cyrus, Xerxes, or Darius team. So those are kind of the main teams to run with. If I run anything else with my pieces, I'm simply going to be feeding battle merit. It's
Yeah.
just,
Oh, I
sometimes,
completely respect that. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm in the
Some
same
of my
part.
teams I'm sending out right now, I'm like, deuces, I'll see you in
Yeah,
20. Because,
yeah.
you know,
It's just like, man, I see you with those pieces,
it's
man. Don't even
bad.
worry about it. I'll catch this battle merits, man.
Yeah. It's terrible. Like,
Yeah,
some of these teams, we'll get into this in just a minute with the tier list that we have and some of these abilities, but you know, kind of dipping the fingers just a little bit into this, there's no soft caps really built into this game a whole lot. And so when we start discussing some of these things, we'll talk about that, but it's what makes some of these teams excel so well, especially Elephant Warriors. So, but anyways,
and well, I'll point out
yeah,
one thing before we go in. We'll look at this one battle report from the brothers real quick. We'll point out
yeah,
one
where I
battle
got
report. We'll look
absolutely
at this one real
destroyed.
quick, and this will give you an idea about largely what the meta is impacted with. We're gonna scroll down right here. This is a Caesar is a Caesar Scipio Bellaris versus a William Caesar Bellaris.
Yep.
So what happened here is you're probably wondering how could Sir Trubulus lose so hard right here, even given it's a Caesar versus Caesar team, and even with having the Caesar Scipio Bellaris, even with having the bonus, right? They are level 50. Sure, they do have level 50 bonus. But let's look at what made it downright impossible to even win this match from the start. Caesar has Elephant Warriors, which, based off of defense, has brought him up to the whole team taking a 47% cap of physical damage.
Yeah, so before Caesar's
that's one
ability.
ability. That is one ability for the whole team. That is affecting 3 people. Okay? Caesar activates Invincible Army, right? 2 abilities going off. The team has now achieved a 93% physical damage reduction. Guys, 93% with 2 abilities. That is
absolutely nuts.
That should not be allowed. And if you look at Bellaris has achieved over 100% physical. He has invulnerability, guys. He has invulnerability right here.
Damage.
He hasn't even activated an ability. We haven't even. You go into Sir Trubulus, he's at 45%, right? He's at 45%, and the only thing he has is Noble Knights. But Noble Knights goes down, right, per you taking a hit. Elephant Warriors just sits there, right? It just sits there.
Yeah, and then Caesar's ability will wear off after 3 turns.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
but
it doesn't cap out. If you look at this ability, it just reduces damage. You just sit there. And there's not enough of that tactical damage doing something. Sure, your people get confused, but the game's over. By most of these turns lasting, the game is over. So, unless you full counter, and even whenever you're full countering this, with my Darius team, I still lose. There is no way for my Darius team, full tactical damage, to be in an Elephant Warrior Caesar team. That should actually not be allowed. And we'll get into that actually right now. And that is what we mainly want to bring up right now, is the Caesar team with Elephant Warriors, and just Elephant Warriors in general right now, is such a hard meta that it shouldn't be beating a Noble Knights team. So let's get into the meta. We've created we're going to go into tier list soon. Don't worry. End of the season, it will come, tier list. But because we also think too, final thing before we get into this list, is there are great cards out there. But they're a lot like how y'all saw Attila. Arninimus came in. Right, Attila was like C or B. No one was using him in season 1. Arninimus came out, and it's like S+. Right, shot off to the moon. So, going in to, let's start off at Spearman teams. Mainly because it's number 1 and the screen's brightening my face a little bit. So, top Spearman teams. Well, we march all in red about what is necessary on these teams. If it is kind of in white, it's generally you have to have all of the cards. You do. You have to have all of the cards in place, but red is necessary to make these teams work with more than 3. So, if you have any of the ones in red, that's the way we labeled it, to where it needs to be, you can do it with the other 2 pieces. Absolutely. Spearman team. 2 full meta teams right now. We both have seen them plenty of right now. It's Yang Zhen Su Wu. Now, the thing is, like I was discussing, you can either run it with Su Wu as chief also, or you don't have Zhang though. Right? But Zhang also with Su Wu is like the full super meta S+, right? That is it. And the best of the best is with Bakui as Cleave. The game right now in its current state is favoring quick kills. It is not favoring stall teams. If y'all are some Immortal Conquest players, y'all saw the Arthur Baylor AO team, right? Y'all saw it. Y'all are probably having nightmares right now. You're going to go to sleep and you're going to have nightmares about facing that team right now. It's not
Yep.
it is not favoring tank teams in the current meta. Y'all are looking at Richard. Y'all are like, this guy should probably be built with Mockery, and then you guys see him with like lose, and bloody battle on mine, right? So the current meta is favoring even the tankier people being built with damage. Wang Jin does not have the ability to be built like how Richard does with the damage abilities. My opinion on him. I think I saw one of the guys on our server build him with Wang Jin instead of Bakui. And we know we're butchering all these names, guys. Don't, yeah, I know. Go down into the comments. Just go ahead and let us know. But Devastating Beauty, Attack and Defend, I think is the best route for the Wang Jin setup. And then Bakui with Swift Sword Squad Quasher. But Swift Sword Squad Quasher can literally be used on every single physical damage dealer in this game. It doesn't matter who it is. You can use Swift Sword Squad Quasher on anyone.
Yep. There are no turns to prepare. It is quick damage. They both do high sources of damage, and they're both highly usable. One focuses the lowest person with the lowest troops, and then the other one does a group silence. So it's just
the silence
it's
I think
awesome.
is too much. I think the silence is just like the pinnacle of that ability, and that's what makes it so broken. It already does 230% to two people, and it's like, why use rapid victories, right? Whenever you have that, there is no reason. It's a 1 to 3, sure, damage rate and whatever, but to hit two people 100% of the time, and to apply silence and all that good stuff, and then if you apply Swift Sword before it, you're taking more damage on one of them, more than likely. So I'll kind of speak a little bit more on the Darius team, because it's a bit disappointing that this team isn't above what it should be at. This is, like I said, it was one of the best teams, if not the best team in Season 1, because Suwoo didn't come in until the end of the game. I haven't pulled a hat. I broke mine down for Heaven's Blessing, not really knowing that I would get Darius later on in the season by luck. And actually, Sir Chubbs pulled Darius for me.
Yeah, so, I busted a hundo. And
he busted 100 for me.
Just busted Darius and started pulls. Yep.
So yeah, I haven't had the chance to do Hap yet, but I'm still disappointed even still with the performance of this team, because it is getting cleaved by every single Kangas team. It is getting killed by every single Caesar team. And it's disappointing that the only super viable Spearman team is the Zhang and Suwoo and Bakui. That is it. That is the S+. The Darius team is as an S tier team. It is. But to be the super meta, it's the Yang, Su, and Bakui.
Yeah. The Darius team performed really well early on in the season, and it was maybe a month into the season that's when we saw the emergence, or at least people starting to really use the Zhang team. And I felt like for us, it kind of came out of left field because we just started getting raffle stomped by this team. And when you look closer at it, you realize why it worked so well. But it was doing a ton of damage. Yeah. So, but
it has a lot of additional effects. I like the way the team works. I do. I like the way that abilities, they synergize well. I like the way that the abilities synergize with Zhang doing more for active skills, and then Suwoo providing synergy for doing additional damage whenever they activate abilities. I just think it needs to be scaled down a little bit. If you put Quinn Elite on this team, you are literally silencing every turn. You are silencing the enemy team almost permanently. I faced a Spearman versus Spearman team. It wasn't even close because they just silenced the Darius team permanently.
Yeah, which, just adding a little bit to that, the Twin Elite Soldiers, just because you need to do actives, Stun Woo, because it buffs actives, man, you absolutely need to have Sun Woo on that team and running Quinn Elite Soldiers. Oh, that is just perfection.
The Courage and Diligence, right? And then past turn 3, it's like, why even bother? Because you've just encouraged the Quinn Elites, right? And then you're encouraging higher proccing of actives. And then Suwoo's ability further increases from Courage and Diligence, more actives happening. So then you've got Bakui just cleaving through teams. It's just so.
Yeah.
That's a lot more the meta right now. If you face one of these, if you face especially the Zhang team, the Bakui's hitting for absolutely nuts damage. Moving over to full cav teams. So right now we believe 4 very hard meta top cav teams right now. The number one team, I will say, even past Elephant Warriors, possibly. It's tough. It's tough. But the Charlemagne, Caesar, and Charles team. Now, I think there's 2 ways to do this team, but it literally involves Chief's Call. It does. If you want to run Chief's Call, you gotta run Charlemagne in the back. If you don't want to run Chief's Call, you can run Caesar in the back. It's either or. You can do either, but I do think the Chief's Call, it's mainly because it's a command, and with War Veteran as well, going off on Charlemagne, if you use it over Fast Gallop, I do think you have Fearful Enemy, which I do think is like the 4th ability, right? You have the Final Finale, that is the best of the best. Then you can either pair it with War Veteran, Fast Gallop, and Fearful Enemy. You can use it without Fatal Finale, but that's the bread and butter. If you put any of those 3 abilities staggered onto them as well, high activation rate or their straight commands, you actually can't do anything against Charlemagne. You actually can do absolutely nothing. You can't even silence him if he's got Final Finale or War Veteran. You can't silence him because he's just passives and commands.
Going to hit regardless, and that's kind of like, for some of the people watching this, and you're like, don't know the difference between actives and commands and passives. Maybe we can do another video on that. But basically, a command's going to go off whether you want it to or not. It's not. It doesn't matter whether you're silenced or disarmed or stunned or anything. Commands go off regardless, and that's why commands, if you've got some sort of tier list for abilities or actives or attack modification skills, if you've got a tier list of those, commands are always going to be at the top because they're going to 100% always go off no matter what. And with this setup, you can actually have a full command setup with Fast Gallop, Fatal Finale on Charlemagne, Caesar with Noble Knights and Preserve and Persist, and then Charles with Chief Skull and Heavenly Blessing. That is a full command setup. It will 100% be, it will be the most consistent thing out there. You have damage, you have support skills, you have everything going off as it should.
Yeah, healing,
and healing. I mean, Caesar, you're going with Noble Knights, Caesar's main ability, and Preserve and Persist, you're going to have pretty much close to 100% physical damage negation within the first 3 rounds. Preserve and Persist lasts 4 rounds. So for almost half of the match, you're going to have considerable, and then Noble Knights will probably have dropped off by round 4. But you kind of see the point here. For the first 3 to 4 rounds, you've got some considerable damage reduction that's going to be that's always going to be consistent. It's always going to be there. So that setup right there is really strong. And then you can kind of see going into the next, this is kind of a mix right here. If you were to, with Caesar, Bellaris, Scipio, and Richard, if you were to kind of rank those individuals, I would definitely go Caesar, Scipio, and Richard with Elephant Warriors. So go ahead and getting into, we've already touched base on Elephant Warriors, but that's the team that you use Elephant Warriors on, is Caesar, Richard, and Scipio. You run Caesar with Elephant Warriors, Healing Hands. You run Scipio with either Courage or Bloody Battle, and then Well-Deserved Credit. And then you just load Richard up with damage, lose, Returning in Triumph, War Veteran, and he's just going to pop off the entire time. His ability synergizes with Scipio because they both have the highest, or no, sorry, Caesar's actually going to hit. I think Caesar has more defense. But anyways, they're just going to pop off on that setup. It's just,
and
with the Elephant Warriors, they've got no physical damage. The physical damage reduction is just ridiculous. That's, we saw it on the William and Bellaris team, but this is the team here that it's also going to pop off on. I mean, with Richard and how his ability works, that's where you want it to really take place because his ability matters if he can hit or not. So then, he's basically taking no damage, and then he's got a return to fire effect on his main ability popping off. It's absolutely ridiculous that team set up with Elephant Warriors.
So y'all gotta get over that nightmare. Okay,
Yeah,
y'all gotta get over that nightmare. Because now we're on,
Valara is
in my
yeah.
fair opinion, we now get on to some fun teams. We do. In my opinion, I think these are fun teams. So we talked about the two S plus teams. These are the two S plus teams. This is like the in between S plus and S right here. This really is. It can be hit or miss. That's the thing about it, right? You're talking about two teams right there that are highly consistent. These are whenever you get into the teams that do have chances. Okay? So that's what we do want to separate, right? Commands are extremely strong right now. Troop skills are extremely strong right now. Let's get into some of the teams that have chances. But those chances, though, are pretty worth it. Attila, Arninimus, and V. I can't pronounce that full. I'm not even going to try. We just call him V.
It's just V.
It's just
Yep.
V. Attila, as I talked before, it was he was C or B, right? You really didn't pair him. I made the full mistake of chopping him off the block the second I got him. I thought there was no way to make this guy work. People were
It has a
talking
good
about
breakdown. You're getting breakthrough formations, which is a good ability.
yeah,
But we just had no idea Arninimus was coming down.
yeah,
Arninimus was made for Attila the Hun. You can maybe make the case for one or two other heroes, but like when you look at how his ability works, how it skips a turn for preparation, and how it modifies attack scale, or I'm sorry, the basic attack,
and the
and then
chase and then
Attila the Hun
the
launches three basic attacks. It gets Arninimus paired with Attila is just madness. Instantly raises Attila to a S plus hero when paired with Arninimus, and then V is just the icing on the cake when you have the group attack added in. So now he's just doing tons of damage, especially with Revolt and Stealth Charge, and then even throwing in War Veteran as a potential another ability there is just really ridiculous.
now we
And
could
yeah,
also run
that's a
that
great
team.
setup.
We could also run that team with Egyptian chariots as well, besides noble knights. If you chunked an extra salad in, you're already using noble knights, for instance. You can run the V with Egyptian chariots as well. That's fine. Um, Basically, by turn three, the whole team's dead anyway, right? You're
Pretty
hitting for
much.
like
Yeah.
400% group attack, right? It doesn't matter who you hit, you're killing the whole team, and then so um, that's a fun team, guys. I seriously think that if I were to like enjoy the game, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I were to like roll my dice, I would love to use that team and just go into it. Um, Kangas, Subtui, and V. This is a fun team as well. I seriously think this is such a cool team. You get some enormous group attack with this team. Subtui, Rhombus Might, Cavalry Charge. That's the number one thing you want to have on this team. The way V works with Egyptian Chariot Healing Hands. Now, we put Healing Hands on a lot of these teams. You can do heal, you can do invulnerable, you can do different buffing abilities or like Peerless Brilliance, things like that. But the ideal thing is to always use Healing Hands whenever you have it open on these teams for your number one team, right?
Yes.
If you're able to run one of these teams right, use Healing Hands whenever you have the option. But Egyptian Chariot, you get more group attack. Kangas, at the end of Subtui's, if you make it past turn 4, right, Kangas becomes like invulnerable, basically. He just becomes like unkillable. So if they somehow survive to Subtui's assault, basically, of Rama's Might, Cavalry Charge, V's group attack, Egyptian Chariot, and then if he ever procs Healing Hands, Kangas Khan basically becomes invulnerable to basically being stopped. He basically just keeps running through because he gets control immunity. So it's a very good team. Now, what we want to preface though, right? What we want to preface is if you stack the team like this, you're giving up two possible great teams right now. And what we mean is we got the Attila Arninimus V team right here. Now, jumping a little bit ahead, if you look at the number one archer team right now, it's the Kang 2S Subtwai, Mongolia, and Jeb. So you gotta make a pick. You do. And if you have all Northerners, right, you're sitting here, you have a plethora of cards. The best thing to do is to do Kangas or Attila, Arninimus, and V, and then run your archer team with Kangas, Subtuai, and Magwai. That is the best way to split them up. But if you have only those three, that's the best setup that you can run for the Kangas, Subtuai, and V team.
And just to add this really quick, because of the way that we were talking about the soft cap with Caesar and Elephant Warriors, that's the reason why this team works so well.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the group attack from Subtui, Cavalry Charge, if it hits, V, and then Egyptian Chariot, you have four sources of of group attack hitting on Subtui, and if Rama Mites hit, it's just it's not even who he hits at that point. It's who the group attack gets a bite to,
Yeah.
because that's who the people that are taking AOE damage are actually taking more damage than who he initially hits. It's that bad whenever it's so it gets ridiculous really quick.
And we're not even counting the damage that Kangas is going to do on the back line with
That's
triple
right.
strike stealth charge. We're not even literally counting that. It's actually better if Sotui doesn't hit the chief, because then he hits like 900% group attack on the chief if he hits one of the front lines. Right?
That's right.
So it doesn't matter. Fun team, good to use. Give it a shot if you can. Let's move on to the two most boring things, right? Let's talk about the infantry. Let's talk about the pitiful infantry that we have on this daggum game right now. So,
Yeah.
what can you do? Oh, you're actually just going to use the cavalry teams as infantry now. That's it. That's it. You just use Roman Legion, or you need to kill... that's it.
I do want to make a comment, though, because when you look at it, we'll talk about balance another time, but I do think it's just worthy of noting here that infantry teams are not particularly strong because of the troop skills that other troop types have. Noble Knights, Elephant Warriors are really strong. Persian Immortals is really strong. Quinn Elite Soldiers is not as strong as Persian Immortals. Is still as strong though. And then you have, of course, we'll get into it in just a second, but it's the Mongolian Cavalry Archers, really strong. But when you look at infantry troop skills, you run into some really big problems with like making those. The troop skills are really the core meta right now, and making teams based off of what troop skills you have active or what you have unlocked, and making teams based off of what heroes you already have. And when you're looking at what we even have here in place, with Caesar's going to be your placeholder for a troop skill. And honestly, I didn't even really feel comfortable putting Roman Legion down, because when you look at the other troop skills, it just doesn't do enough when looking at the. I mean, look at what Elephant Warriors does, and then look at what Roman Legion does.
It
just doesn't do enough damage to compensate for what some of these other troop skills are able to do. And that's why you're going to put Caesar, Bellaris, Scipio, or Richard on a cavalry team instead of an infantry. It's going to be a really niche and kind of fix for season 2. Season 3, that might change. But I really am hoping that they do something with the infantry teams here. So that's why you're not going to see. You'll see Yamato Samurai on Ragnar down just a little bit further, but Yamato Samurai is probably the most legitimate troop skill that we have here. Berserkers, I mean, I actually put a suggestion up, guys. So if y'all go onto the suggestion board and go onto the go onto the Discord, you'll see what I put on there. But I basically address this, and I think Yamato Samurai really is the only legitimate troop skill that we have here. So if you did want to put Yamato Samurai on the Caesar team, that's probably what I would put there. But the other ones, I don't think are quite frankly that worth bothering at this time.
So diving into the fun infantry team, right? We're getting into the fun one. And this team is so cool to use. I mean, it's just not meta, but I would say it's S. It's if you're not going to use the Caesar infantry, because Caesar's just so god tier, right? We got to put it above them. We have to. There's
Right.
no other choice. You have to use if you so Ragnar, Ivar, Bjorn, Olaf. Now you can run this team several different ways. My fair opinion, I think I would do Ragnar, Ivar, Olaf. You could also do Ragnar, Ivar as chief, and then do Bjorn as well. I think either way you stack it, I think it's fine. I think they're all going to have similar results. We just have not seen the team enough. Nobody's using infantry because everyone's using cavalry. We're starting to make full circle about who's using what teams. But even still, though, there is no way Ragnar, even full countering the Kangas team, is not going to beat it. Okay? If my Darius team cannot beat a Caesar team, I'll tell you what, the Ragnar team is certainly not being a Kangas team as archers. I hate to say it, it's that much of a deficit in damage right now. Ragnar will not put out the damage to beat the Kangas. Ragnar is basically a tried and true tank. He's a support tank because his best ability is his breakdown. Like a lot of these people, I hate to say, you got to draw two of them and get their breakdown. And the reason why we probably didn't put Caesar's ability on Dagum everyone is because you have to draw another Caesar. I don't know if y'all have ever
Yeah.
done that before, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. So that's the reason
Yep.
why Caesar's ability is not on every person as well that does physical damage. But Olaf, easy build, Long Glacier, Swift Sword, Squad Quasher, same thing you do on everyone, just like how we mentioned. You do not want to do turn to prepares on him. The way his main ability works, high activation, one turn, just instant activations on that. Easy done. Ragnar, Yamato Samurai, best on him. This is a great team to use it on because of the way covering works. And this team is the way I think a team should be ran. If I'm looking at what I think, in my fair opinion, the way I think a game should work, I love the way that team works. It's buffing, it's supporting, it's covering, it's got a tank, it's got a backline. It fits what you would want a team to look like. Right? You don't want a team to look like the Caesar teams. It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And it's not exactly the funnest thing to go against. It's not even exactly the funnest thing to build. But if you look at the Ragnar teams, and I think the reason why it appeals so much to us is we're old IC players. We're old IC players. We like a front line, we like a middle support, and we like a backline damage. That's the way we've always done it. It looks we're old. Yes, we're old, but Ragnar is the greatest person in the front, but Bjorn, Ivar really good in the middle, and then Olaf in the back, great damage source. I wish Olaf had a little bit more meat on his main ability, right? Rather than just saying he does a little bit more damage, right? It's he needs a little bit more, I think, to make that team better. I think the only thing that to buff on that team really to make it a balanced team, I think we're looking a little bit more at balanced team. I think that Olaf just needs a little bit more meat on the bone. And then Ivar, you build him basically just like Arnenimus. Swift Sword, Squad Quasher, Breakthrough, Courage, Bloody Battle. All those abilities are fine. Every single one of them. Bjorn, if you're using him, Healing Hands Invulnerable, great team to use Invulnerable on. This is probably a great team to use it on. Chief's Call, get that damage reduction on Ragnar, of course. You can even use that on Ivar as well, in the other side of it. Windswept, use that with Long Glacier, of course. Yeah, I think that's a great team. I would love to see it more meta, though. I would. Your thoughts, Chubbs, on that team?
Yeah, just a quick note. Some of you guys might think, well, Olaf, your selection is kind of limited here. What's going on? You always want to put skills with no turn to prepare on Olaf just because of how Moxie works. So just keep that in mind. If you are going to run this team, you need abilities that do not have a turn to prepare. So that's why he doesn't have breakthrough formation,
Yeah.
um,
A
or
breakthrough
other such
formation on
abilities
Ivar is
like that.
extremely good in that
Yes.
scenario.
So just something, just a little food for thought, just adding a little tip for this team if you're going to build it. Yeah, Olaf. That's why Long Glaciers with Squad Quasher, there's no turn to prepare because you want the damage potential to be on Olaf to be as high as possible because he's going to be one of your main, if not your main damage source on this team.
So now we're getting into my number one most hated team. And I have it, right? I finally have it. I think this team doesn't make it shouldn't be this powerful. This is the number one team I think right now. There's no team that beats it besides the Caesar teams, and that's just because of how powerful Caesar is. My problem with this team is everything falls too perfectly together with Maugui, Subtuai, and Kangas. The team works too perfectly right now. It really does. The team is balanced with all cards. It's not just Caesar doing all the work, right? The team works so fluidly together. It is, and y'all are gonna hate me for saying this. It's the Onary Sif. Is this thing is right here? This is it.
Yeah, this is it right here. This is it right here. So and just kind
Maugui.
of going back on what we originally had said, the people that are marked in red are the ones really required to make this team work. You know, could you put Genghis Khan, Subtui, and Jebediah on the same team? You could, but it's not going to work as well as you have Mughali on that team with Subtui and Genghis Khan, because you need a place. One, you need a placeholder for Mongolian cavalry archers, but they need to load Mughali on that team really loads the damage up to be done by Subtui and Genghis Khan. It's just this team right here, we're just seeing too many reports come in of them countering, or I'm sorry, killing their counters. It's just that's how well this team is doing right now in this current meta. They're just doing over the top damage. We joke about it commonly in chat about going to go hit a Genghis Khan team, and
You lose in the first
you know,
turn.
we'll see them in 20 minutes. Because if you have this combination of Genghis Khan, Subtui, and Mughali, and Jebediah, you're running it, and you're running it.
Yeah.
You're as soon as this army's depleted, you're bringing it back. You're running it back to the front lines, and you're just racking up the battle merit. It's this team right here is, of all the teams that we've probably listed this far, this is probably the top team, or just right below it. In terms of if we were to rank the teams on this entire list, this is probably going to be either the number one or number two slot.
And the only team that would beat that is is the it's probably three. It's the I would say Caesar Charlemagne, Charles,
Yep.
um, the Zhang team, and then this. That if you were to went rogue with those three teams, you would never lose. You would actually only have victories, and
Right.
you would never stop.
Yep.
Um, the team works too well together. It's got to come down. It does. I have the team, and I don't even like using it. It's just too strong. You could side note, you could use Longbowman. I might try it later on. I if Edward might hit the chopping block, and I might chop off my Edward, and I might get Longbowman and give it a shot just because I don't have Mongolian cavalry archers yet. Um, Quick note on the final archer team: it's the same as the Darius team before. The only reason why you'd run this archers is because you already have a spearman team. Let's say you have Zhang, you don't have Mongolia, but you need archers to counter spears. Get longbowmen or just run it full archers. If you don't have Persian Immortals sitting around and you're not using that, right? Just go ahead, swap them over to archers. You longbowmen if you want to. Chief Squad. It's the same build, same everything. So I won't speak. We won't speak too much on that, but it is one of the best archer teams out there. You can. It's but though. You can swap it though, right? You can just actually go from S to S on the full Darius team, the original season one.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also something that's also kind of playing in place of how good that team can be. Um, but yeah, guys, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We've spoken enough. We have. We've spoken enough. Let us know your comments down below. We really want to hear from you. What are your current opinions on it? You know, here we are. We're basically at the end of it. We've PvP'd enough. We've seen enough in it to know what is currently happening in the meta, what really needs to change. We will talk about balance soon, in what needs to happen there. Will anyone listen to us? Probably not. But here we are, though. We do want to make sure that we're out here at least trying to give some helpful guide out there, letting you know you're not the only one getting smashed by these guys. So, but without further ado, though, this is PvP My Kids IRL,
This is Sir Chubbs.
and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.